The Digital Circles Podcast, giving a voice to Northern Ireland's business network. Brought to you by Private Label People. With your host, Paul Mooney.
Here we go, it's the Circle Back show. I'm using that because I used it last week. You drew reference to it, Robert, and I quite liked it, so we'll use it this week again.
Continuity is good.
Not in this country. Mike, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you boys doing?
I'm fair to middling. I had the school run this morning in the wind and the rain, which I know you shouldn't really talk about the weather first thing on a podcast, but what is going on?
I'm really glad you brought that up. Like, I was coming into the office this morning and I had a flat tire, which had kind of set me back a wee bit. And then I wanted to get that pumped up. Went down to the petrol station to get it pumped up, and some Neanderthal had jammed a £1 coin into the machine, so I couldn't get it done. Drove on up to the office and then was greeted by that rain, which was pretty nasty. It was really cold, really cold rain. And if that wasn't enough for you, there was that little waft of wind that just said, here, have a wee bit of that as well. So, yeah, it was terrible.
It's a good Northern Irish word, that, isn't it? Waft.
Waft.
Oh.
You can use it in different circumstances. We were on it wasn't a stag do. It was just a trip years ago, a lads trip to Gran Canaria, and there was a restaurant down below us, and it used to waft up to us, the smell, and we called it the wafter. the wafter restaurant, because it was a smell of garlic, but it was an Argentinian steak restaurant. It was fantastic, but I had this visualization of the chef out the back with, a big set of, was it bellows? Bellows, wafting this garlic.
Do you know,
it's a great advert, isn't it? Instead of putting up a billboard or advertising on social media, just a big bit of bellows just blowing that steaky smell.
Do you want me to do dishes, boss? No. Take the bellows, take them out the back there. There's a load of garlic sauce.
Do you know the big house, the pavilion on the Ormo Road?
Yes.
Famously back in the day, if nobody was buying any food, they would cook up a sizzling steak and get one of the waiters just to walk around and waft it at them.
Well, you know yourself, like whenever you're in a restaurant, we're really quickly into food here. Normally it takes us about 20 minutes. We're straight into food. Whenever you're in a restaurant and you're seeing the dishes be served out the other clients, and you almost use that as the menu sometimes. It's like, oh, that looks good. I wonder what that is. Or if you've already made your choice, that can sometimes go against you. Oh, I should have gone for that. That looks amazing.
Yeah, and you feel a bit bad staring at people.
Then
people sort of look back at you as if...
pretty good about it.
Well, people look back at you like, yeah, I know you're looking to see what I'm eating, to see if you'll get the same thing. But it happens all the time in restaurants now, to the point where I do it every time I go in. You sort of, when you get your food, you look up to see who's looking at your food.
Well, I was glaring at somebody earlier who,
this is escalating.
who'd made the wrong choice to go into a bakery and ask about gluten-free options. It's like, it's a bakery. They're buns. Buns need that goodness. So it's like, go somewhere else and get something that's gluten-free. Do not go into a bakery. It's buns, man. Come on.
I'm pretty sure I should eat gluten-free food, but I just have to get on with it because it just tastes too good.
It didn't stop you woofing that pastel de nata into you before this episode, Paul.
I was going to do it live on air here, but I thought maybe people wouldn't want to hear me munching my way through a massive Portuguese custard tart, but it was beautiful.
At this point, I think possibly we should be replacing the Digital Circles logo with pastel de nata.
Big pie.
It gets a good bit of airtime.
Should be a little Easter egg in there, just a very small pastel de nata.
Well, I can tell you one man that doesn't eat too many pastel de natas, and if he does, he works them off pretty quickly. He was our guest last week, Mr. Ian Young, who is a very dedicated professional in terms of his diet and his exercise routine and everything else. And you guys have listened to the podcast, I'm sure. Yeah,
true athlete, and that goes. Do you know those sorts of guys and girls who are just they're 100% athletes? And Ian being able to go from football into kickboxing, two totally different sports, and yet to be at the level that he was at in both sports, in terms of like Irish league football, winning titles with two clubs, and then making a change into kickboxing. And it was one of those ones that he was talking about where he'd good legs, as he said, but strong in the legs, which then was able to transfer across. He was saying himself he wasn't as good as, say, the boxing element, but the kicking element of it was very strong. He was able to transfer that, but 100%, like the dedication that you could almost hear in his voice to being that true athlete. And I feel that transferred beautifully into his dedication to his business.
Yeah, he had that mindset that no matter what he was going to do, he was going to put his mind to it 100% and be successful, and he has been fantastically successful. So.
He was, and the interview was a great listen back there, actually, because I think Ian really got across very well, the similarities between some of the struggles you can have in both the sports, and also, ducking and diving and making things move in business too. He did a great.
Yeah, there was one thing that he said very, very early on, which, said to me straight out of the gate. He was talking about the fact that in the morning times he was doing his coaching, his classes, whether that's in person or his online side of things. But then immediately it was get the laptop out. It was right at the start of the interview. And that said to me, there's a guy who's always on. And a lot of people will go against that and say, oh no, you have to relax, you have to do this. It's like, actually, that's incorrect. You've got to always be present inside your business the way Ian has been, Ian still currently is, and will continue to be. And that's a big part of the reason for his success. And I would even say it's a big part of the reason for his success in football originally and inside mixed martial arts, just constantly being on and probably constantly being off Pastleton that as well.
He's definitely off those. He's like a lot of successful people in that they are always on. But he talked a little bit about meditation, things like that, and they have people within the company that he runs now that handle that sort of thing, and that's a big thing too. Knowing if you are going to switch off, the best way to switch off, to get you that energy back.
Being at one with yourself, definitely mindfulness. And it's whenever I say always on, and the way he was talking about always on, that doesn't mean that there's nothing else happening in your day or in your week. Like, he's a family man, he's got kids, so
sweet boy, yeah.
It's like that doesn't mean that he's ignoring them. It's just when he is in coaching mode in the morning, he's in coaching mode, and whenever he's then focusing on, not that part's not part of the business, but getting the laptop out, doing the numbers, doing the different things that he has to do, he's focused on that. And I would say then when the time comes that he puts the laptop away, maybe he does the yoga and the mindfulness, the meditation, then it's time to focus on the other side. And it's breaking that up. It doesn't mean that you're just not present for anything else. That's not the point.
Yeah, he was talking a little bit about obviously some of the people that he worked with, and it just brings it back, and use a boxing metaphor, we really punch above our weight. I mean, he trained at Mary Peters Gym, Billy Murray, was it Mike Bull? He was a former Commonwealth athlete. And then, when you think about some of the people we've produced here in boxing and in sport, kickboxing, and again, obviously former world champion, I mean, you've Dave Boy McCauley, you've Barry McGuigan, you've Cart Frampton, you've got Liam McCourt currently.
Yeah.
Even
Paddy Barnes, Olympian.
Yeah.
I know that's all in the combat sport field, but for a very small part of the world, we're well punching above our weight.
Yeah, and Kitty Taylor, obviously, at the minute, is one of the biggest names, obviously from down south, that's doing amazing stuff in boxing. So, yeah, it's something that we're quite good at for some reason. I don't know why it is, but we've got that sort of hard side to us, some of us in this country.
It's the weather.
You have a hard side to you.
Oh, I do. Hard as nails.
I think there's also that it kind of gets almost like handed down. Whenever you have those champions, I don't know where it starts from, but because the likes of boxing, combat sports are big in Northern Ireland, then younger kids will gravitate towards them. And then you do have the clubs, because we've been good at it in the past. You have the clubs all around Belfast, like, Holy Trinity and the different clubs that there are. So kids get exposed to boxing, they get exposed to combat sports, and then it's cyclical. Yeah. So they become good because there was somebody previous, because the club has got heritage and it's got history and it knows what it's doing. It produces Olympians and so on and so forth. It's no surprise. It's like success leaves clues, and that then moves on. As I say, I don't know where it started from, but it's been going a hell of a long time. You hear Carl Frampton talking about Rinty Monaghan, like that was ages ago. But there's no reason why it won't continue again. And hopefully, like I used to love and enjoy the nights that Carl was defending his world title down in the SSE, which was the Odyssey back in the day. And it'll be great to see the next, who we don't know who it is yet, but maybe somebody like Crocker, Lewis Crocker. Okay. Maybe he can make a step up, and maybe we get another world title fight in Belfast soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were always great nights. They had a few really good ones in Ram Burnett as well, and Paddy Barnes. And some great nights. And I always remember one springs to mind. Do you remember the one Carl Frampton fought outside the Titanic?
Yes.
I actually remember there was somebody we knew had to have a lie down in the back of an ambulance that night.
Yeah.
Just comes to mind.
And it wasn't anything to do with alcohol. It was actually to do with food. Just eating too much.
We'll go back to food.
Yeah, back to food again. But yeah, I mean, Ram Burnett was another one, a bit of an unsung hero. People don't realise just how good he was. I saw Ryan fighting in Belfast. I also watched him on that fateful night where he was fighting in Glasgow, and we went to watch him in the World Series of boxing, where he dislocated or he ripped the ligament in his back, which would ultimately end his boxing career. But then, in a weird way, the circle back with Ian went into the coaching and the gym setup for boxers, so almost creating the next wave of younger fighters.
Yeah, it was funny when Ian said that he was talking about playing football at the time, playing for Crusaders, and that was a very combative team he played for, but he said he was never too afraid of having a scrap with somebody. Yeah. And then he obviously went into kickboxing, but you get that a lot, it seems, with young people, to keep them out of trouble, or maybe they've, not saying that there was any behavioural issues with him, by the way, but it's almost, send them to a boxing club because it teaches them discipline, it teaches them, great habits. And you could see from talking to Ian, in terms of the discipline that he has with his dad and everything else, a lot of that probably comes from his training, that discipline within himself to look after himself.
Yeah, I guess it's very prevalent in combat sports, but it's prevalent in all sports. But he was also talking about, like, his weight that he fought at was 10 stone 2 or something like that. It was just over 10 stone, and you're going, and I'm kind of looking at myself going, 10 stone, and I'm not that much taller than Ian.
It's one of my legs.
Like, yeah, exactly. And then you go even further down in to some of the lighter weights. You're going, how do they get themselves down to those sorts of weights? And it's just that discipline, complete and utter discipline. And a big shout out to our Mexican listeners about Leo Santa Cruz, a very famous Mexican boxer who did fight Carl Frampton twice in 2 epic fights. I saw the first one where Carl won. Thankfully, I didn't go to the second one because Carl unfortunately lost a very close decision that night.
Yeah, he's still fighting, isn't he, Leo?
Yeah, I saw him. He was fighting against Gervonta Davis, but I think he's got to that certain stage in his career now that he should really hang the gloves up.
You're a Garcia fan as well, aren't you?
I do quite like Garcia. I like his style. I think he brings a more youthful crowd to the whole boxing, and obviously he's an extremely good looking fella, so he's bringing a completely different batch of fans and audience to this boxing and combat sport.
Well, if any Mexican people are listening and they're wondering what I look like, you could take an image of Canelo, and you could picture me. I ginger hair, so yeah.
You need to tune in to see Canelo then in Cinco de Mayo. He actually fights. He always fights around Cinco de Mayo for the Mexican celebration.
He's some boxer.
He
He'd
is.
be one of the greats, no doubt. Yeah, so fantastic to have Ian on. If you haven't listened to that, please go back and do listen to it. We've got quite a lot of sport actually this week with the Grand National at the weekend. Some people don't like the Grand National, I have to say. I was listening to radio yesterday and some people really are against it.
Go watch it then.
Yeah, well, true.
Who's he? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the Grand National, surely.
Oh,
Well, there is if
Well,
you-
animal rights people.
There is
right, okay.
if you put your money on the wrong horse, then I really don't like it. But it's probably one of the only races, and I'm sure it's true of a lot of people, that it's probably the only race during the year that you bet on every time. As in, like, whenever it's on, you'll always go down to the bookies. I really don't like betting on the phone.
No.
It's just not the same. And like now and again, we would go to the live races here, and they're excellent. Like they're absolutely excellent. You see all the bookies around in the. It's not a paddock, but there's another name for the bookies area.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's not the full.
it's something along those lines. But like parting with hard cash, notes to put on your bet, and then if you're fortunate enough to get a winner, going and collecting it again. But there's just more notes now. But getting it in hard cash is good.
Yeah, we've the Grand National, and we've also got the Masters golf this weekend.
Was that kick off this week? I mean, last night as well.
Tomorrow.
The football Champions League was quite special. It was a real decision to make between watching Manchester City against Real Madrid or Arsenal against Bayern Munich. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger.
Which one did you watch, Mike?
Football.
I watched the football.
Yeah, to relate back to a previous podcast. Football.
Football. Yeah, for any listeners who aren't aware, I know zero about football. Zero.
Well, just to circle back to the boxing very briefly, last night when reading online, I came across this and I couldn't quite believe it. Mike Tyson has brought out a range of cannabis edibles.
Right.
Do you know what the edibles are?
So, like, sweets?
Yeah, but
Oh, wait,
what they're in the shape of?
Is it a jelly baby's head?
Ears.
Ears.
Why? So,
That's very clever.
Big Mike's edible ears.
can you imagine how raging Evander Holyfield is? But
Yeah.
He's only just raging because he didn't think of it first. He would have done, because if Evander had done it first, because it actually was his ear. So technically speaking, Mike not only stole his ear, but he stole his good idea. Do you like that?
Well, there's actually, they're very graphic because they have a little bite out of the ears.
Tremendous.
So they're formed with a bite out of them. So there you go.
kind of like the Apple logo.
Yeah. He should team up with George Foreman.
So who do you fancy for the Masters then?
I can make the mistake backing Rory every year.
Every year. Every
year.
tournament, I do it.
Scheffler will be hard to beat, I would say. He's pretty consistent. That's a good thing about the Masters. Somebody can come from nowhere, as is with all golf tournaments, obviously. But
You almost need to watch the first day. It's weird nowadays. I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, you just Tiger Woods. But now the field is much bigger, and those, I was going to say top 10, but it's probably more like top 20. It's like any of those ones could do it, or even somebody from further back in the field. You need to get that first day so that some of the main contenders have a poor day. Well, poor day for them. It would be awesome for me to have the day that they would have, but you just need to find out a little bit of information, rule some out, and then you get a bit of a clearer picture, don't you?
well, I would love to see Rory doing it.
Yeah.
Only it would be great to see him hanging off the balcony at Hollywood Golf Club, blocked again, or down in Hunter's Bar, swinging from a bottle of Lambrusco or whatever it was. He was doing that time. He was champion of something before.
Is that the
but-
one he's missing?
Yes, that would complete his. Well, it's not
Grand Slam?
Is it the Grand Slam?
Or
They call
his
it?
career Grand Slam?
Yeah. He's one of very few who would have done that. But yeah, you never know. He's got the right game for it. So I'll be watching with. I always sort of switch off a bit when Rory drops out. I have to say, I just find him.
Can't help it. Like,
Yeah.
I think whenever you have that
Box
local
office.
interest, I think it's always good to have somebody that you can root for in a sport. Like, I was never really one that was into Formula One. I know it's absolutely massive now, and a lot of people watch it. But I did like it whenever Eddie Irvine was there, just because it was local interest. You had somebody to cheer on, and you were able to become a bit of a cheerleader for somebody that you could relate to, simply because of where he was from. And I know a lot of people kind of do that, and I think too in the likes of business, being able to be that cheerleader, to be a bit more local, I think is very important across the world. The supermarkets and the big chains, they do not need your support, right? No. They do not need it. And the service that you get is generally worse. You're being, let's say, used. So always try, if you can get something local, go local, support that, be a cheerleader for your local area or your country per se.
Definitely. Speaking of local, Michael, come to you first. Any local businesses you've frequented?
I do indeed. For the first time, I'm not going to go for a food related one.
Oh, thank God! Somebody's not.
This past Saturday, I went to a night or I should say an afternoon, at the Limelight in Belfast, which was called the 30 Plus Club, and the idea behind this was essentially it was for people who had responsibilities of some sort that mean that they can't stay out late and or are far too old and can't stay out late. So it was a full kind of I guess like a 90s cheesy club experience, but it ended at 9 p.m. and I gotta say it was absolutely brilliant.
Why am I visualising it a 30 plus club? That, you know, the way sometimes you go into, not that you go to nightclubs very much at our age, but you go into nightclubs nowadays and people are queuing to get into the toilets for certain reasons, but at a 30 plus club it's just people queuing because they really need to go to the toilet because your bladder doesn't work the way that it used to.
Well, do you know actually what was pretty notable was like there was very little queuing, there was very little, there was no argy-bargy, everyone was just there for a bit of steam. Honestly, it was brilliant. It was like going back to Lavery's Middle Bar in 1999.
Live band on or just music?
No, DJ, so all the floor fillers. I think it was a bit of 2 Unlimited. There's a bit of Basement Jacks maybe along those lines. This was the.
Well, it's almost like I went last year to Lush Classical in the SSE.
Brilliant.
Which is obviously big arena, the old school classics and everything else. And I think I can honestly say it was the most well-behaved rave / dance night that I've ever seen, because it's 40s, 50s year olds who they're just done. They're literally just done. And they just go there because the music is anthemic, it's nostalgic, few pints, bit of food, and it was fantastic.
Well, from what I gather off the back of this, and this is the reason for bringing it up, off the back of this, they have identified a market because they've had to now put on, because of demand, they've had to put on maybe I don't want to state this as a fact, but I think it's 5 more nights. So it's over the course of the next few months.
It kind of goes along with, and again, it was something that Ian sort of alluded to, but it's that idea of more, better, new in relation to business. And if you take a city centre bar like the Limelight, they've probably exhausted the more, as in there's only so many days that they can put on in a week. They're kind of limited in that way and shape. Better, they've done. So therefore, the last one in that is new. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to,
or in this case, old.
Yeah, exactly. And it's trying to attract a different or a new audience, or re-engage an audience. And anybody who is in business, is starting a business, you can find a lot of information about more, better, new on YouTube, online. I know Alex Hermosi talks an awful lot about it and digs into it rather than going into it, but it's a very interesting concept to look at. Do more first, do better next, then look at new.
Yeah.
Now that you've given Limelight to the Limelight, any more, or is that it?
That's what I got.
That you done?
That's it.
Roberto?
Well, I'm just going to go back to food because
It's what you do best.
yeah, it really is. And I was somewhere very close to yourselves here about a week to 10 days ago. Went to somewhere we've been before, which is Overwood Steakhouse upstairs in Blue House in Baloo, Clinchie. And it's one of those things that I will always say to people and recommend that if you know that you're going out for a steak, go to a steakhouse. Don't eat a steak at a normal restaurant.
Yeah.
Because, and I have a bit of a filter criteria. You need to have more than 3 steaks on the menu to be a steakhouse.
Okay.
So you go to most restaurants, they'll have a ribeye and a fillet, or they'll have a sirloin and a fillet. That doesn't qualify. It's like you need to have at least 3. And it really should be a steak menu of all the different types of steak, like your Chateaubriands, your Côte de Boeuf. There should be different sizes, 16, 12, 8. You should have a wide variety, but they did a steak that you could never do in the house. It's another kind of thing. And it was just the way it was done. It's a wonderful setting. And it was probably... I can't think of a better steak that I've ever had.
I'm getting hungry here, I tell you.
It's sublime. Overwood is, it's wow. It's just fantastic.
They just do it. They just do it right, and only go if you're gonna have a steak. Like, don't go to the complete opposite as well. Don't go to a steakhouse and order the chicken. Don't do that. Like you can have the chicken in a normal restaurant. If you're going to a steakhouse, order the steak.
I've got a steakhouse story from back in the day. Now it's not from Belfast, so I'll keep it or Northern Ireland, but I'll keep this one quick. Went to a quite well-known steakhouse in London, and one of the things they do at the start of the meal is the waiter comes around with a big platter of steaks with all the different cuts on it, and he goes and he takes you through them and he tells you where it came from, what it was, and all this. Now that night I had mistakenly, for a number of reasons, worn cream trousers. First of all, no self-respecting man should wear cream trousers, I find. And second of all, for what I'm about to explain, the guy was stood beside me showing us this platter of meat. He had it angled. And after a little bit of time, I was like, my leg's very cold. Why is my leg so cold? I looked down and the blood from the platter had dripped all over my legs. That was me for the night. We were on a night out, like...
It probably looked like you'd been in a mixed martial arts fight.
I know. Cream trousers with blood all over them.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's probably a good thing, really. They needed to be put in the bin.
It probably curtailed your evening, which was probably for the best.
Okay, I'll give a previous podcast guest a mention here, Michael Dunbar from the Gypsies, because my mum moved house on Monday and we used the Gypsies to move her, which made a very stressful situation a lot less stressful, I have to say. I've moved house in the past and not used a removals company, and now I'm going, why did you put yourself through that? Are you mental? It was...
I wish you'd clarify that they actually moved her stuff.
Well,
not her.
Well, do you know, the funny thing is they actually moved her as well.
Sorry. Okay.
Because she had to cross the main road to get to my car, and the guy from the Gypsies actually helped her cross the road by the arm. He took her by the hand.
So they now have a taxi service as well at the Gypsies?
Full service?
I think my mum was in love with him. He was just a young lad. He was a really lovely lad, but they were really professional. And they made it so much easier, just knowing that, and the way they boxed everything and packaged everything, like they were taking care of it like it was coming out of like the pyramids in Gaza or Giza, sorry. Like it was like artifacts they were moving. They were so careful with everything.
What did you say? Who puts themselves through that? It's like we've said it many times, getting the professional, the proper person to do the proper job. And then at the end of it, you're going to be talking about it the way you are. You're going to be waxed lyrical. You're going to be very happy. Your mum's obviously happy. You guys haven't had to do a whole pile of stuff that you're not professionals at. Get the man in to do the job that he's assigned to do, and then you're just going to be a hell of a lot happier.
Well, as Michael Dunbar said when he was on, it's in the top 3 most stressful things that you will encounter in your life, moving house. So why make it
Take
more
that
stressful?
part out.
Yeah. It's it actually brings me back. I was listening to something earlier on the radio about stressful situations, and they were talking about stressful situations as a sole parent. So whether you're bringing up kids on your own or whether your other half has went away for the weekend, and it brought back some memories to me about, wow. I remember once.
What you put your mum through, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm sure it did, but my youngest daughter's mum was away on a hen do, and she developed, my youngest daughter developed a vomiting and diarrhea bug.
Oh no.
And this was horrendous. It was, I think on the Friday it kicked in, and it was mayhem. Like, she was only a wee baby, and I was dealing with it. But on the Saturday morning, my eldest daughter had a gymnastics competition, and she couldn't miss it. Like, she'd been going on all week about this gymnastics competition, and I thought, I'm going to have to go to this, and I'm going to have to bring my youngest daughter, who's still not great with this bug. But then on the Saturday morning, certain to feel it, I started feeling a bit ropey, and I had to bring my little baby daughter to watch my eldest daughter in the gymnastics competition. And if you've ever been to a gymnastics competition, those things run all day.
Like, big crack though, are they?
From 9 in the morning through to 4. And she basically did a forward tumble, and that was the height of the gymnastics competition for her, but they wouldn't let us leave. She had to stay to the end to get an award.
As long as you didn't do a forward tumble.
Well, I tell you,
Backwards tumble.
I was holding Megan, my youngest daughter, and I had to phone my dad, and I said, Dad, how far are you? It was at Carryduff in the Loch Moss Centre. I said, how far are you from Carryduff? And he said, I'm in the house, son, about 15 minutes. I said, can you get here as quick as you can? Because I could feel it starting to go.
Something's about to go down.
It wasn't good, but thankfully he came, and he was able to help me out on that day. But that was a very stressful situation. I was, as well as that, probably passing on my stomach bug to the other people, which you really shouldn't do. But what did you do? My eldest daughter would never forgive me. So
I think taking the, as you say, taking the stress out of things that you can control. You weren't in control of that gymnastics scenario. You just had to deal with it. But taking the stress out of areas that you can control is a hell of a lot easier, and being able to go find that person, and especially nowadays, having a supercomputer in your pocket that you can find about different businesses, what they do. You can see reviews of it. You can see videos of how they package your fine artifacts from the pyramids or whatever it is. You can find out so much about it before you even have to do the service. And businesses, I think, have really got to put that front foot forward. It's not just about like Yellow Pages anymore, and having an advert and that hitting and hope. Putting it out there and hoping that somebody rings. You've got a website. You've got to put all these things out. You've got to show, and even if you think it's weird or boring, that's what people are looking to see. In the removal game, for example, they're looking to see, how do you package paintings? How will you go into a kitchen and pack up my crockery? Those things are important to people.
Well, it must have been as well, I'd say, interesting to have, after having had the conversation and done the interview there the other week, to then have seen it in action, seen them do the things that he was talking about. Yeah,
absolutely. And they did everything that Michael described. They were there at 9 a.m. on the actual dot.
Yeah.
Like, right there, literally on the dot. And in the house, I think there was 4 guys. And Mum's house, she's lived there 43 years, a lot of stuff to move, but they just set about it, but they did it really calmly. One of the lads had, he was listening to his music while he was packaging stuff up, and he was just
maybe listening to our podcast.
Well, maybe he was, yeah. But
so definitely do use my gypsies to do removal, but please don't bring Ian Young in to beat my bag up.
But now to go back to the boxing, I just realised that I call the Mexican boxer Canelo, whenever that's his Christian name, is Canelo Alvarez. It reminds me, do you know when you get people who let on they know something about something that they really don't know about? We were talking to a fella I know about boxing, and we were saying about what fights were coming up, and he said, do you know what I can't wait for? I can't wait to watch that guy Canelo fighting your man Alvarez. It's the same person.
But you would pay to watch it. Like.
That could be quite interesting. Him beating himself up.
Yeah.
Same thing actually happened. Well, very very similar. I'd said to somebody we know, "Oh, I can't wait for that Neary McGee fight." Right? And he went, "Who's Neary McGee?" And I went, "No, it's Shay Neary versus Eamon McGee." So, who's Neary McGee?
Neary McGee. It's a great name.
It is a great name.
Good Irish name, that. But I sent you guys over a wee recommendation for something Mexican themed again: cheese and onion tato tortillas.
Oh, I still haven't been there, but the response from you guys was, well, I mean, I'll have to.
It's
worth trying.
They're a thing of beauty. They're a thing of beauty. The very first one, you kind of go, what is going on? And then you look down and the bag's empty. That's literally it. The crisps are just demolished. They're all gone.
Well, Tato have been doing a wee sort of a trying out different things. Have they not? A wee while ago, I had Tato cheese and onion chocolate
Sausage
bar.
supper.
Yes.
A chocolate bar?
Yeah, chocolate bar.
Yes, I've seen those, yeah.
It was very good. And it comes back to that thing of more, better, and you, doesn't it? Because they've done, and I think people who have like started off in business or they're getting going, they constantly move towards new. But actually what they should be doing is more.
Yeah.
Or the better. But whenever you've got a company like Tato, they've been around for a long, long time, you do at times have to go into the new category and picking up on trends that are outside. Like they are now picking up customers by doing a tortilla crisp that they've never had before.
Mm.
You know, somebody who likes tortillas, maybe they've been eating a different brand, and I don't like that other brand, the bigger brand. I would never buy their thing, but I really enjoyed these ones just because of that little bit of flavour. And obviously everybody loves Tato cheese and onion, even if you don't like cheese and onion crisps.
See, it's quite funny because I know somebody that's not that fussed on them, but yet loves that particularly big brand you were talking about, the cheesy ones, and loved those Tato cheese and onion tortillas. Okay. They'd be good in a salsa dip, or as I said, with a bit of vegetable roll and brown sauce.
Definitely, that is. It's an
Ulster. Sorry, I got a bit excited.
Yeah, an Ulster mix health salad.
But vegetable roll is something that not everybody has heard of. It's quite a.
Well, it's a very Northern Irish thing.
Yeah.
If you had liquid vegetable roll, and that could be a bit of a dip for it, couldn't it?
Jeez, that sounds like a George Foreman lean mean grill machine tray.
That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
If you've ever like seen anyone that was like misnamed, it's definitely vegetable roll.
Scallions.
I mean, there is such a low quantity of vegetable in that thing.
That's the thing. Whenever you're talking, so we have a friend from Donegal, and even he didn't know what vegetable roll was. When we said to him about vegetable roll, he said, "Sure, just what's in it?" What sort of vegetables? We said, "Well, not very many."
Yeah, actually none. They've been showing a scallion or a spring onion. That's about the height of it.
Great stuff. Yeah, try the Tato tortillas. Let us know what you think of the ported down Mexican fusion. This is what happens when two great cultures come together. But
I can see the sales of Tato and veg roll skyrocketing now that it's out in the open.
They will. Coming into the good months of weather here, hopefully. Yeah, right. There's some good things on the approach. The Cathedral Quarter Arts Festival is on the 2nd to the 12th of May for anybody that's at a loose end. There's some good things. I was on their website yesterday, you talking about good information on websites.
Sounds like a Mike thing to me. Arts.
Yeah, I mean, I could enjoy that. I mean, the one that always got me back in the day, certainly in the first few years, was Culture Night, and it started out quite similar, right. But I don't even think it's running now. What's this one all about? Well,
the Cathedral Quarter Arts Festival, yeah, so it runs for just 10 days, obviously. So it has plays, it has some comedians, it has music. So Sarah Pascoe's actually doing a thing that, the comedian stroke writer.
Okay.
Blonde-haired girl. She'd be on sometimes, Mock the Week, things like that. She's doing it. P.P. Arnold, who used to sing, she sang a song with the band you love, Ocean Colour Scene.
Oh, I was hoping that you were going to say that it was P.P. Arnold from Arnold's and there was actually going to be food at it.
half pounder, bacon and cheeseburger, and a cheesy chip.
Yeah.
And a veg roll.
And a veg roll on top. Yeah. PP Arnold's playing. Bruna Gallagher's actually playing with her.
Very good.
So yeah.
Bruna Gallagher, is she
Bruna Gallagher,
musician as well?
Well, her big thing back in the day was the Commitments. So she was one of the backing singers in the Commitments.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just regard her now more as an actor.
Yeah.
Rather than
I
a
think she
musician.
is, yeah. Primarily.
Yeah. So
She's been in quite a lot of stuff, Bruna Gallagher.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's almost like she appears every 6 months in a TV series or a film.
Which is fantastic.
She's been doing it for a long time. I suppose The Commitments was probably her breakthrough, wouldn't it have been?
I mean, I wouldn't know for sure, but certainly I think it was a big role for her. Like at
great
the time.
voice too. She's a good singer.
Ah, super.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're at a loose end, get yourself down to that. You'll enjoy it. I'm not on commission, I promise. Oh yes, well, actually, that reminds me of a friend of ours, Jason Kelly, who is an artist, and he is doing his first play in Liverpool in Hope Street Theatre. Not sure the exact dates, but I believe
He's acting, or he's
written the play.
Oh, fantastic!
It's his first theatre production. It's called Deadheads. So if I know we have some listeners in Liverpool actually, so if you want to get yourself along to that as well and support Jason,
Brilliant.
and also take a look online at Jason Kelly Art, because he's a very good young artist. Look from Belfast here. So
I've got some of his work in a holiday home.
You do indeed.
And yeah, very, very talented indeed. It's great to see somebody with that creative spark. I think whenever you don't have a creative spark, like I'm not a creative person, but whenever you can see somebody turning a quite literal blank canvas into something that you've been given very loose instruction to. I'm a fan of Star Wars, and being from Belfast, I said to Jason, could you draw me a sultry looking Han Solo sitting in front of the Harland and Wolff cranes?
Brilliant.
And he did it, and it was everything and more. So congratulations to Jason. I hope it's a real success. I've got every faith that it will be.
well, now that we've mentioned him and we've got him more spotlight, those paintings you're sitting on will be worth a few quid more.
That's what I was hoping for. That's the only reason why I said it.
Yeah, there you go. You owe us one. But yes, that brings this blank canvas to an end. We've thrown a lot of stuff at it, and hopefully everybody that's listening has enjoyed it. But thank you guys. Until next time.